There is a fear that quietly controls most people's lives. Not the fear of danger, not the fear of pain, but the fear of failure. It shows up when you hesitate to take action, when you overthink simple decisions, when you delay opportunities that could change your life. And the strange part is this: most people try to eliminate this fear by thinking positively. They tell themselves everything will work out. They imagine success. They avoid thinking about what could go wrong. But what if that approach is exactly what keeps you trapped? What if the way to overcome fear is not to avoid negative thoughts, but to use them intentionally? For centuries, Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius practiced something most people today misunderstand. It's called negative visualization. Not pessimism, not anxiety, but a disciplined mental practice that prepares you for reality. In this video, you will learn how to use negative visualization to dissolve your fear of failure, strengthen your mindset, and take action with clarity. Stay until the end, because the final shift is what transforms fear into confidence. 1. What negative visualization really is. Negative visualization is not about expecting the worst. It is about preparing for it. Most people avoid thinking about failure because it makes them uncomfortable. They distract themselves. They hope for the best. They pretend everything will go perfectly. But deep down, uncertainty remains. And that uncertainty fuels anxiety. Negative visualization does the opposite. You consciously imagine what could go wrong. You picture failure. You consider setbacks. You explore the uncomfortable possibilities, not to scare yourself, but to remove the fear of the unknown. As Seneca wrote, he robs present ills of their power, who has perceived their coming beforehand. When you face the possibility mentally, it loses its power over you. 2. Why fear of failure controls you. Fear of failure is not really about failure. It is about uncertainty. Your mind fears what it cannot predict. It asks questions like, what if I fail? What if I look foolish? What if I lose everything? And because you avoid these questions, they grow stronger. The unknown becomes exaggerated. But when you use negative visualization, you bring those fears into the light. You examine them. And once examined, they begin to shrink. Because most of what you fear is not as catastrophic as your mind imagines. 3. The power of clarity. When you clearly imagine failure, something surprising happens. You begin to see solutions. Instead of vague fear, you see specific scenarios. Instead of anxiety, you see options. You ask, if this happens, what would I do? And suddenly, you realize something important. You would adapt, you would adjust, you would continue. The fear weakens because you recognize your own resilience. 4. Detaching from outcomes. One of the core Stoic teachings is this: you control your actions, not the results. Fear of failure comes from attaching your identity to outcomes. If you succeed, you feel worthy. If you fail, you feel diminished. Negative visualization helps you break this attachment. By imagining failure, you separate your self-worth from the result. You realize, even if things don't go as planned, you remain the same person, capable, learning, growing. This shift is freedom. 5. Reducing emotional shock. Failure hurts most when it is unexpected. When you assume everything will go well any setback feels overwhelming. But when you have already considered the possibility, the impact is reduced. You are not surprised. You are prepared. As Epictetus taught, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Negative visualization builds emotional resilience. It turns shock into readiness. 6. Gratitude through contrast. Another powerful effect of negative visualization is gratitude. When you imagine losing something, you begin to appreciate it more. Your current situation feels more valuable. Your relationships feel deeper. Your opportunities feel meaningful. This is a principle also found in Buddhist teachings. Awareness of impermanence creates appreciation. When you understand that everything can change, you stop taking things for granted. 7. Taking action despite fear. The goal of negative visualization is not to eliminate fear completely. It is to make fear manageable. When you clearly understand the worst-case scenario, you can make a decision. Is it really that bad? And most of the time, the answer is no. Failure becomes something you can handle, not something that controls you. This is where action begins. You stop waiting for perfect certainty. You move forward despite discomfort. 8. Practical application. To practice negative visualization, start simple. Choose something you're afraid to do. Then ask yourself, what is the worst realistic outcome? Visualize it clearly, not dramatically, but honestly. Then go deeper. If that happens, what would I do? How would I recover? What would I learn? As you answer these questions, notice how the fear changes. It becomes less intense, less overwhelming, more manageable. 9. The difference between rumination and discipline. There is an important distinction. Negative visualization is intentional and controlled. Rumination is uncontrolled and repetitive. If you constantly imagine worst-case scenarios without purpose, you create anxiety. But if you do it with awareness and structure, you create clarity. The difference is control. You choose when to engage with a thought and when to let it go. 10. The final shift. At the highest level, negative visualization leads to a simple realization. You are stronger than your fears, not because nothing bad can happen, but because you can handle what happens. This is true confidence, not blind optimism, not denial, but grounded certainty in your ability to respond. Conclusion. Fear of failure will always exist, but it does not have to control you. When you avoid it, it grows. When you face it, it weakens. Negative visualization is not about expecting failure. It is about removing its power. So the next time fear appears, don't run from it. Turn toward it, examine it, understand it. Because once you do, you will realize something most people never see. Failure was never the real problem. Fear was, and now you know how to face it.